Hello friends, I'm Atul Dahale and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to look at one more game related to the romantic era of chess, and our favorite player is, as always, Adolf Anderssen. Well, Adolf Anderssen is considered as the genius of chess combinations, and I have already analyzed two of his games. One is like evergreen game of chess and another game is related to his famous queen sacrifice. You can find those games in my classical games section, or you can click on the I icon above and you can find the links. Well, I will recommend you to go through those games and see the beauty of chess which he has produced on the board. And our today's discussion will be related to his game against Rosanes. Well, the game started with King's Gambit opening, and it is played in a fashion that is famously played by Kiziriski, the player who was very famous at that time. And one more thing about this game is, like as usual, the game finished with a queen sacrifice. So without further ado, we'll see one of the best combinational games Anderson has played in his chess career. So the game started with, as usual, you can say e4, which was a very trademark of that era. Then e5, and which move will you play? Obviously the King's Gambit. f4, this was kind of a trademark of that era. Everybody used to play that. And one more thing about that era is, like, people used to give sacrifices and it used to feel like it is a good omen, and if you don't accept the sacrifice then it is termed as something bad. So obviously Anderson was not going to back down. He played e into f4, accepting the sacrifice, and white played knight to the f3. Now in this position, black played g5. Yes, he wants to protect the pawn on f4, and white was also very alert. He played h4, g4, and then the knight moved to the central square, that is e5. Now this position is named after one very famous player, as I mentioned, Kiziriski, and this is called as Kiziriski Gambit. Well, black player played knight to the f6, protecting the pawn on g4. Here white has several options. He can play d4, which is considered as the best move in the modern era now. But okay, white has knight into g4 move also, or he can even play bishop to the c4, which he played in this game. And after bishop to the c4, which is little bit inaccuracy, black can play a good move in the center of the board. It is very important. You should always remember that in the opening you should always try to control the center, and Anderson obviously knew this thing and he played d5, trying to get more control in the center of the board. Well, white has two options to capture the pawn on d5. One is bishop into d5. That looks little bit bad because black can simply play knight into d5, and after e into d5, queen into d5, the queen will be good, and the knight on e5 doesn't look that good in this position. And the pawn on g2 is also being attacked, so you can say that white will be very unhappy in this position and black will be very happy. So obviously he did not go for that. White played e into d5, and this is the point of this position. Black will play bishop to the d6. He will not capture the pawn on d5 because that will give this bishop some room. But if the pawn is on d5 square, the bishop on c4 will be feeling little bit bad because its diagonal is already blocked, and now the knight on e5 is being attacked. So what to do in this position? Well, white played d4, supporting the knight on d4. Well, in this position, objectively speaking, white can go for something like castle, but it looks very dangerous in this position because after bishop into e5, you can say that the piece is lost, but white has a good move, that is rook to the e1, and then the bishop on e5 will also be captured after some time with d4. And this was made famous by Isaac, one very big philanthropist at that time. Well, d4 was played in this game, and we will continue with the game. Knight h5 is played with the idea of playing knight to the g3 at some point, right? So here white played bishop to the b5, which looks a little bit odd, and objectively speaking, again, white should have castled, and it might lead to a checkmate, you can think, because black has a very strong reply, that is queen to the h4, threatening g3, and queen to the h2. But wait, white also has his turn and he can play a good move. After queen into h4, white has a good move, that is queen to the e1, attacking the queen on h4 as well as threatening an indirect attack on the king on e8. And if you go for the plan like g3, trying to checkmate white's king with queen to the h2 on the next move, white has a very nice attack, that is discovered check will come, that is knight to the g6 check, as well as you will be attacking the queen on h4, and there is no satisfactory way to save the queen on h4. Black will lose the queen. Okay, so this is not something which black will be happy with playing. He might need to play queen into e1, and after rook into e1, black can be assured that okay, he can castle and the position will be okay for him. But castling should have been done by white, but he did not go for castling. He thought, why not play bishop to the b5 check and disturb black's king side. Well, he thought like king f8 is the only move in this position, which is quite natural, right? But no, black had prepared something in this position, because similar game has already happened in 1860 and 3 years back before this game, and Anderssen knew that game and he had prepared one novelty. That novelty was c6 move. Well, by playing this move, he is going to sacrifice the pawn first of all, and next he is going to sacrifice a whole rook. We'll see what happens. After d into c6, b into c6, knight into c6, knight into c6, bishop into c6, he has already sacrificed one pawn. You can see that. And another thing is that the bishop is attacking king as well as the rook on a8. So it looks obvious that white is going to capture the rook on a8. But what black had prepared in this position, he has prepared a nice move. He prepared king to the f8 in this position. He is ready to sacrifice his rook on a8. But why? Well, we will see what is really happening in this position. By sacrificing the rook on a8, you can see that what black has achieved. First of all, his pieces are super active. Plus, this knight is very strong on h5. It is ready to jump on the g3 square, and the king can always come to the g7, and the rook will also join the game with rook to the e8. Another thing is that queen is also active. It can come to this diagonal at any point whenever it is necessary. And white's king, who will be in the center of the board, will be very weak. So, and one more thing is that you can see white's pieces, they are yet to be developed. All these pieces are not at all developed. So you can see that by sacrificing a pawn and a rook, white is completely lack in development, and white is having you can say material plus, but initiative is completely on the black side. So obviously black played knight to the g3, attacking the rook on h1. So his opponent played rook to the h2, trying to save the rook. Well, objectively speaking, in this position, instead of rook to the h2, white can play king to the f2, and the game might proceed with knight into h1, queen into h1, then g3 check, king to the e1, and after this, well, you can play bishop to the, or maybe first queen e7 check, and then if king goes to the d1 square, then we can play bishop to the g4 check, bishop f3, bishop into f3, g into f3. Now a silent move, rook to the g8, trying to play g2, and white might play bishop queen to the g2, stopping that pawn. But black has again a nice move, queen into h4. Now queen h2 will be threatened, so white must play king to the e2, and after queen to the h2, king to the f1, black will march his h pawn with h5 with the idea of h4, h3, and black should be better in this position. So you can see by simple play, black will be having a great position after king to the f2. So here his opponent played rook to the h2, and now in this position black played a very simple move, that is bishop to the f5, developing the bishop as well as attacking the bishop on a8. And white played just saved his bishop with bishop to the d5, and as we know that one of the pieces in the black's camp is not in the game, that is the rook on h8, and it is our moral duty to bring that rook in the game. So that's why black played a very nice move. He played king to the g7, safeguarding his king on the king side and also threatening rook to the e8 check. Well, in this position, white also thought that his pieces on the queen side are not yet developed, so he develops his knight to the c3, and now black plays rook e8 check. King f2 is played in this position. Now it's time to bring the queen in the game. So black plays queen to the b6 with the idea of playing bishop to the e5 and capturing the pawn on d4, as the pawn on d4 will be pinned. So white in this position thought, why not attack the queen and dislodge him from that beautiful square, that is b6. So he plays knight to the a4, and in this position queen is attacked. Black plays queen to the a6. Well, this move is not just without any idea, it has a very deep idea. I'll show you. Let's suppose now First of all, the knight on a4 is attacked, and also there is a hidden threat in this position. And if, let's suppose, white plays something like b3 supporting the knight on a4, then black can play a nice move, that is queen to the e2 check. After queen into e2, he can play rook to the e2 check, king to the g1, and now rook e1 check, king to the f2, and now mate in 1 with rook to the f1 check and mate. So this is also something which white cannot really play. So white understood that playing b3 is not going to help him. He needs to protect the square on e2. That's why he played knight to the c3, coming back with his knight. And you can say that he has wasted the move. And now black plays one amazing, brilliant move. He plays bishop to the e5. Why? Well, he wants to clear up this diagonal for his queen. And if in this position, let's suppose d into e5 is played, then black can simply play queen b6 check. If king e1 is played, then queen to the g1 check. If king d2, then black will checkmate white's king with queen to the e3 check and mate. So that's why he is not going to capture the bishop. Well, in the game he played a4, and to play knight to the b5 on the next move to block this queen's diagonal. But here his opponent realized that he is going to lose when Anderssen announced the mate in 4. So I will ask you to pause the video and find out where is the mate in 4. Well, if you have thought about this, then you can say that yes, he can sacrifice the queen and it will be a brilliant check and mate. So the check and mate will start with queen to the f1 check. It is forced for white to capture the queen, and now bishop to the d4 check. And here white king is not having any squares. All the squares are already blocked, so bishop to the e3. And here you need to play one nice move, that is rook into e3. This is not that much obvious, and no matter, you will not believe, no matter white will play, he is going to be checkmated on the next move. Maybe he might play king to the g1, and here where is the checkmate? Yes, rook to the e1 check with the bishop. The queen is also pinned, right? The queen cannot come on f2, and the king is not having any squares on h1 because his knight is well placed on the g3 square, and that's why it is a check and mate. So you can see that this is how those players in that era used to play. They used to accept the sacrifices, they used to give the sacrifices, and that's why it is called as the romantic era of chess. I hope you enjoyed this game. It is a very small game, but still it is very beautiful, and you will share this game with your friends also. And if you are not subscribed to my channel till now, do subscribe. We will be meeting once again with something new, with something brilliant. Till then, take care and goodbye.